Coming up on today's wrestling news, we have a backstage update on Drew McIntyre's WWE status.
A former AEW star is returning to the company.
A surprising WWE release flies under the radar.
And AEW Dynamite is getting a new look.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And I'm Phil Chambers.
And this still is the news.
Oh my God.
And it's pretty big news today for a very prominent WWE superstar whose contract has been unknown. His status has been unknown for a little while. Drew McIntyre, obviously heavily in the mix. It's WrestleMania season and he's going to Elimination Chamber. He's considered one of the favourites to potentially become number one contender for Seth Rollins' World Heavyweight title. But while all of this has been going on, it's been widely reported that his contract is coming due any day now, and will he re-sign, and what's going to happen next, and all this sort of stuff. We appear to have a little bit of a breakthrough in the story. Per PW Insider, there are sources within WWE that are now working on the idea that he will be re-signing in the very near future. The report goes on to say that as an indicator of that, Drew is being advertised for a WWE live event in Bologna in Italy. That's on May the 1st. That's 3 days before Backlash in France, where again, potentially if he's holding the title, he could be a huge part of it.
Yep.
It gets him through WrestleMania. It makes this WrestleMania match more than just a farewell or a send-off of whatever. So yeah, as of right now, as of this report on PW Insider, it does appear as if Drew McIntyre will indeed be staying put in WWE. It didn't seem that way. This time last year, obviously, he had that big Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania. He came back and he did more business with Gunther in the summer. And then it looked as if he himself was putting feelers out that, like AEW is there, New Japan is there. How much exactly am I worth? What more can I do? And WWE seems to have answered that question rather directly with his booking, I would say. Over the last few months, he's been one of, not a revelation as a heel, that would be unfair, but he's been one of the most prominent key players in WWE with this character that has just been so easy to enjoy and get on board with it and feud with countless other people, to the point where, as CM Punk sits currently on the injured reserve list, Drew McIntyre is working his own program for the moment he returns. Mm-hmm. So things seem pretty good if you're Drew right now.
Yeah, absolutely. This kind of feels like the Drew that kind of left WWE and did the kind of indie run. Like that is in terms of the personality behind it. Mm-hmm. It feels a lot more like that rather than I don't know, his promos started going really weirdly scripted, and then they were talking about all the sword stuff with his mom. It all got a little bit off the rails.
Very WWE game show host, world champion.
He was getting there with this character, but a face with the 3, 2, 1 Claymore stuff. It was getting there, and then they just went a little bit off the rails with it. But this feels more like Drew as a person, turned up obviously. Yeah. And he's obviously having a ball with it, with his his social media stuff and
the DM Hunk,
the Punk T-shirt. Yeah, he's doing really well. But yeah, this kind of renewed focus definitely feels like WWE have promised him something, and it puts a big question mark on if he wins the Chamber and it is him versus Seth Rollins on WrestleMania. It puts a big question mark on that match as to whether he might even win it and have a bit of a title run over the summer as a heel champion. Yeah,
I was thinking about this. Should Cody win the belt at Mania? Presumably he's going to stay on Raw now that Raw's become the A show again. SmackDown needs that top guy, and it's more likely to be a heel in contrast to Cody, isn't it? Drew fits the bill in every single way, doesn't he?
Yeah,
proven experience at the top of the card, that kind of thing, can carry shows as a champion. So yeah, maybe a bit of timing and a bit of consequence. But Drew himself has absolutely worked himself back into this position.
Yes.
So I hope he's getting that bag, as the kids say.
It's been a long road for him. He's since the Clash at the Castle Peaks.
Yeah.
Where obviously, they couldn't put the belt on him then because they had much more to do with Roman going forward. So then after that, it kind of felt like a kind of slow decline of just directionless.
It was looking time to go, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that way anymore.
But this very much feels renewed and exciting again. So looking forward to it. See what comes out of it. But going over to AEW for a second, someone who left the company is coming back. And this is QT Marshall. Now this is coming from Fightful Select, who are reporting that QT Marshall has made a deal to return to the company a few weeks ago. It hasn't happened yet, but it will be happening soon. Now before he left, he was obviously in-ring talent. He was doing all the QTV stuff, but he was also the Vice President of Creative and Talent behind the scenes. Now this time he's coming back. He will just be taking up that Vice President role, not the on-screen talent, on-screen wrestler side of things. But it does apparently leave him open to wrestle elsewhere. whilst he's working for AEW. And part of the big deal of why he left in the first place, or at least a chunk of it, there was plenty of things, was because he wanted to sort of try and wrestle more and like follow that wrestling dream kind of thing, as you say. So this kind of gives him almost the best of both worlds in terms of the like solid job within AEW, but also allowing him to wrestle elsewhere while he's doing it.
Yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it? There's the statement at the time, I recall him talking about obviously believing that there were still dreams he wanted to chase within wrestling that involved matches themselves, and still felt he had obviously bumps left to take. But there was also like little messages in there about the fact that like the company had changed a little bit and there's nothing wrong with it, the company changed, but maybe I don't want to be a part of that company anymore.
Yeah.
And obviously then he went and it's taken some time, and now he's coming back in. Whether or not that means that we can read into that certain changes that he was referring to are no longer there, who knows? That's just pure speculation on my part. But yeah, a QT that doesn't wrestle in AEW on a roster that is already this full, and yet him still being allowed to go and get those dates elsewhere does feel like a nice compromise has been made. Obviously, his value from his original run between 2019 and 2023 is being acknowledged by the fact that he's coming straight back in what feels like a similar role.
Yes, almost immediately welcomed back to the point where, we haven't even, like, they must have replaced that role at some point, and whoever they did were just like, sorry, QT's back, like, off you go.
Like, the only thing working against him now is, like, in a few years' time when they're going to be saying, like, years of service, and he's going to have to knock those first 4 off, isn't it? But, like, beyond that, like, what has really changed other than the fact that between them they've come to the agreement, right, you're not going to wrestle here, but we've got like 300 gazillion wrestlers, so do you understand that? And he said yes.
Yeah,
and it's all well.
Yeah, he's another guy as well, like we were talking about Rocky Romero the other day. Yeah, where people behind the scenes always genuinely have like really nice things to say about him in terms of just the way he is backstage, how helpful he is, and especially in terms of like the training younger wrestlers and things like side aspect of it. He's obviously got his own school as well. So yeah, it seems like another welcome addition back to the sort of behind the scenes area of AEW at least.
Yeah, but from going into a company to exit in one, we've got a bit of news on a surprise WWE release that's gone under the radar a little bit. Now there's a couple of reasons for this. The name in question here is Matt Camp. He's been one of WWE's presenters of The Bump and does a lot of their media, and you might have seen him on the likes of not so much the kickoff panels in person, but when they do the in-studio programs for the network or PPAC or like the various PLE like shoulder programming that they do. Matt Camp's been one of their regular presenters and never really a guy that's crossed over to the TV product. But it is interesting that his release comes now after we've had Mackenzie Mitchell go in at the back end of last year from NXT, and just recently Kevin Patrick moving around on commentary before again also departing. It's that's like a number of changes all at once in WWE's broadcasting setup. It makes you wonder if there's like further changes to come potentially. The release was something of a shock according to PW Insider to those within the company who have only just found out over the last several days, and there was no explanation as to why he was cut. He's been a presenter of that show since it launched several years ago now, and it still airs to this day. Again, it's the sort of thing where maybe if you don't know The Bump exists, it wouldn't mean anything to you, but it's been kicking around like sort of 4 or 5 years now as like WWE's kind of primary digital landing spot, I would say, for various wrestlers to come on and talk in and out of character. And he's been part of that like regular hosting rotation since then. I think September 2019 that started. That's like a 5-year run for online content is very impressive within WWE.
It really is.
Yeah, so he did other things like, again, like Raw Talk and the SmackDown Catch Up and all those sort of like link-up programs that you may not see all the time, but they're always there. So his coverage for those that watch them would have been sort of like multiple times a week. So yeah, Camp's gone now. He's worked previously in wrestling for Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore. He was on Busted Open Radio, and he's like also done stuff for Bleacher Report as well. So he's got like sideways links to wrestling. I guess maybe potentially he revisits those outside of WWE. No word yet on what he's going to be doing. But yeah, he is gone, and it's sort of one of them things that just wasn't mentioned for a little while. He made his final appearance at the end of January and then just stopped appearing. So it's been a quieter one. But yeah, just strange that these changes are being made and like coming a little bit out of nowhere when certainly WWE from that outside point of view is presenting itself as a place where people are like happy to be working there again. You get these wrestler cuts, but beyond that, it's looked relatively stable from the employee side of things in terms of the on-camera people, the presenters. Triple H brought back Kathy Kelly, if you remember, and like Samantha Irvin's like kind of like shot to fame as like a lot of people consider her like the best announcer they've had since Howard Finkel and all that. So yeah, somewhat of a surprise, this one.
Yeah, it's a little bit strange one. It comes it wasn't that long ago where Kayla Braxton announced her leaving the bump. To do other things within WWE, obviously, not leaving the company. But just these little changes happening backstage. I do wonder if it's either going to be some kind of TKO deal where, sort of part of the merger where they're trying to cut down on how many sort of behind the scenes presenter style things they have, maybe. Yeah, exactly. Or whether this is them sort of revamping, this is pure speculation on my part, by the way, revamping their sort of behind the scenes shows and things on the move towards Netflix.
Yeah,
because it's possibly, these all cropped up in a world where WWE were desperate for as much content as they could humanly possibly make.
The Super Series era.
Yeah, filling up the WWE network with content and things like that. So maybe that's just a sort of slow decline in things as they lead to Netflix and figure out more about what that actual content strategy is going to be going forwards.
Yeah, you do wonder how many of those shows necessarily get the views every single week. Like, who are the dedicated hardcores watching our Raw talk, for example?
Yeah, and is that of any worth to a Netflix? At all.
We will see.
We will have to wait and see. But going back over to AEW and more changes happening over there. This is coming from a tweet from Tony Khan, who yesterday on Valentine's Day, obviously, tweeted out this: Dynamite is red, Dynamite is blue until the Wednesday after Revolution when we'll have a brand new set for you. So production changes.
Stick to the booking.
See what he did there. Pretty more production changes coming to AEW Dynamite. Now, obviously, this new set was introduced last year, 2023, in January, and when they moved from the sort of entrance tunnels to the sort of big LED screens, taking a much more WWE style aesthetic. Now, there's been a few other changes since then. They recently introduced the screens alongside the barrier and the ring apron. Again, a lot like WWE do, but also very handy for them for advertising things. Which is probably the main reason they did that, I imagine. Alongside sort of a few other little production changes.
This is your wheelhouse, this film.
Yeah. So this feels like it feels like a big year of change almost for AEW. Like whether they're just trying to reset, start things over again. They brought back the rankings. Obviously, they've got a couple of big debuts coming up with Mercedes Money and Okada.
Okada.
Coming up,
umbrella, because you're making it right.
Some big changes coming forward, and this seems like a bit of a part of this. So it'd be interesting to see whether they go fully back to the sort of Dynamite of old, or have something hinting at an entrance tunnel kind of aesthetic, or whether this is something bigger and bolder. Hopefully, all I want from it, I didn't personally like the entrance tunnels because I have no nostalgia whatsoever for WCW, so it never really worked for me. But the new screens, they do look nice, but they do look also very WWE light. And if you're not going to be able to beat WWE at that, maybe don't try. So I just want something with a little bit of personality. More of a SmackDown fist than a big giant LED screen.
It's funny you mentioned the SmackDown fist. I was going to shout out my fellow daddy boy Michael Sidgwick, who made this point. The return of the tunnels does feel a little bit like people calling for the return of the SmackDown fist, as if it booked. As if that fist was holding a pencil.
That was the thing that made everything good.
I understand nostalgia guides a lot of our thoughts when it comes to pro wrestling, but this actually does line up. There was a Twitter Scoopster post with absolutely no sourcing, which is why we certainly didn't report it yesterday, but ahead of Tony Khan tweeting this out, it just said something like, tunnels, march, get excited, whatever, and a bunch of people really wanted them back. I don't know, new always seems to be the way to go to me. It's not always going to work, taking all that era and modernise it by all means. It's great when you can revisit something that was beloved, but if you just replicate it, it often feels like a step back. It might not in the moment, you have a lovely night with it, but there's a reason why, I don't know. One Night Stand 2005 was magic, One Night Stand 2006 looked a bit more WWE, and then ECW was, oh my god, ECW on TV. So sometimes it's just nice to have a little bit of a replication of it, but then also pushing things forward at the same time.
Absolutely, yeah. It at this point to me, it'd feel like WWE going from the giant LED screens back to the Raw set with just the sort of square bit of truss around the edge.
You're going to get so much anger in the comments because people would
I know,
take
yeah,
that right.
I'm not saying that
swinging
was bad,
backlash pincers.
But it's saying you're going from something bright, shiny, incredible on TV on HD to something a little bit dark and a little bit old looking. And I just think something new is what we need. Not going back, let's just try something different.
Do you know, Phil, what looks bright and shiny on television?
What's that?
The streets of Philadelphia in the credits of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And we've taken inspiration that for our WhatCulture live show, It's Always Sunny at WhatCulture.
Perfect segue.
You ever that?
Yeah.
You see that?
Big fan.
Maybe I should be on Netflix. We're gonna be live in Philadelphia over WrestleMania weekend. We are the meat in your WrestleMania sandwich. It's taking place right there, Underground Art, Sunday, April the 7th at 12 p.m, giving you plenty of time to get yourself over to WrestleMania after it's finished, because we're going to want to do that.
Yeah, we're doing the exact same thing.
We'll be talking about everything that's happened the night before, loads of stuff the night still to come. Simon Miller will be there. You'll probably get a live wire. There'll be podcasts, there'll be quizzes, there'll be all that sort of good stuff. VIP tickets are sold out, but if you get yourself to whatculture.com/tickets, there are some general sale still available. Food, drink, Underground Arts has got a lot. It's going to be your perfect WrestleMania pre-game. We're very, very excited. Come along, come and join us.
It's going to be good.
Do we finish some questions?
Yes, why not?
I think I've got the biggest one, Phil. And it's for me. It's from
no one likes a show off.
It's from Andrew Pollard from WhatCulture at Cultured Left Peg. Shout out to Andrew Pollard. It was his articles that informed this video this morning. Check them out at whatculture.com/WB. He's coming through. He's coming through the questions that matter, Phil. What's the greatest Jeff Jarrett look, and why is it this? And if Ben,
shall I just leave you to it?
Could right now flash up the suggestion that Pollard has given us, which is the Jeff Jarrett, affectionately known as Aztec Warrior singlet that he wore in 1998, the sort of the white one.
Yeah.
It's got like the vest and the shorts. I'm a big fan of that. Thank you, Andrew. Great question. Thanks for checking us out. I'm a big fan of that one. I love, honestly, Jeff Jarrett in white. I know white gear and WrestleMania and white always looks class on all wrestlers. But like Jeff Jarrett in the absolute basic white, say like WCW World Champion, just the white shorts with the JJ down the side, maybe in a gold or a blue, like a nice colour that really bounces off the white shorts. But absolutely fantastic. Also, I'll do one more. Also is blue and black and white that he wore in Your House 2 against Shawn Michaels. Shawn in white and gold that day. That might be the best single individual gear match ever. Should we get on to some more like fluffier stuff now? I feel like we've dealt with the heavy issues there with Jeff Jarrett's gear, so we'll get on some other stuff. This one's for you, Phil. It's from our friends at Castor Roll Pod, at Castor Roll Pod, Castor Roll Podcast lads. Once Mania is over and done with, do you think it's about time WWE stripped back the amount of titles that have to allow them to concentrate on telling more compelling stories? It is title heavy, but I don't think single titles are in reasonable health at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think WWE is too bad at all. I think, obviously, with the brand split, you're going to have the multiple sort of world champions thing.
Yeah.
And I think like they've actually done it reasonably well in recent years, as opposed to the old brand split of old that they kind of just threw out the window whenever they kind of felt like it.
Yeah.
It feels a bit more set, and especially now with Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis being like separate GMs, they feel like their own identities. So yeah, I think fine having the two world champions, especially with Roman's reign. Like, what would everybody else have done with Roman's reign going on? And the IC in the US, I think, are fine. They've obviously joined the tag team belts. I think they need to just get new belts for that and get rid of the stupid brass penny things with the blue and red straps.
Yeah,
I think they should just 4 belts, get rid of them and put some purple straps on them at least for the Judgment Day. Like, come on, guys, it's right there.
Agree, hard agree.
So yeah,
match our glasses.
I don't think the WWE belts are in too bad a state.
No, I do sort of get where Casserole's coming from, if only because I think historically it's always just sort of felt like a shortcut to a story.
Yeah.
But now, especially if you look at like the average Raw SmackDown, with the champions either being like so long standing and like unbeatable, like a Gunther and like a Roman Reigns, or part-time / not always around like Reigns or a Logan Paul, the prestige of the title has gone up for me.
Yeah.
When they are around full-time, conversely, a Seth Rollins, it feels like that title is represented by the fact that it is constantly defended and constantly worked for and worked towards.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're striking the balance right now. This can change, obviously. Slightly different in the women's...
And the different identities of each belt as well.
Yeah.
Like the World Heavyweight Championship feels a lot different to the WWE Championship, even though they're like, well, maybe not at the same level. Roman's is still like a little bit above, but they feel like completely different belts, whereas the IC title and the US title feel like different belts as well.
Yeah, the women's titles are completely dependent on the booking of the division.
Yes.
I think like the belts are in decent health because the very, very tops of the division are as well. Rhea Ripley's a massive star, Becky Lynch is a huge star. Io Sky, less so, but she can kind of be relied upon to have the matches. However, and Bayley as well, Bianca Belair, there's that like top line that will always have something going on. You've got like Charlotte Flair on the shelf at the moment. She'll be back soon. But the division is ultimately going to define way more by its wrestlers and its belts. You can switch those belts around whoever you want. We've seen this with the tag belts. You can put them on anybody, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the champions are just going to be credible overnight.
Yeah.
Until you start putting more creative care into the division, I don't think the belts stand much of a chance of getting far beyond where they are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the women's tag belts especially, like it feels like the trying at least.
Yeah.
I mean, the bar is pretty low with those belts.
Really
let's face
low.
it.
Yeah.
But they are like trying to get something there.
Yeah.
But I think just more care within the women's division, booking top to bottom. And again, I think championships feel more important when there's other stories going on alongside them, because like there'll be like say 2 other people fighting, and then whoever gets that eventually gets the shot at the title.
Yeah.
And it's when you get that kind of layered in the roster. In the division, and that's when things feel important, because everybody on that roster, even right down at the bottom, is eventually trying to work their way up to that belt.
It gets forgotten, doesn't it?
And they miss that a lot.
It gets forgotten, like especially AEW, I think with rankings are trying to bring the idea back. Ultimately, every wrestler should go to work and be like have a tunnel visioned attempt to win a title, and the angles, the storylines, the feuds, the fights are what divert them off that path.
Yeah.
Like Punk and MJF is a great example of this. A magic story, but ultimately both men were wanting to win in order to win the title. CM Punk finished with MJF and went on to win the title.
Yeah.
Every feud should be a diversion of your singular goal, which is to win a belt.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think until you get that back in the division, the belts are just on the stars.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it, isn't it?
100%.
Speaking of which, a question that is kind of as simple and as complicated that we'll wrap up the news with today, from Basim Al-Jala Benair. I apologise if I've got your surname wrong there, Basim, at BasimJ86. Greetings. When would you put the strap on Swerve? Revolution or a later pay-per-view?
I don't know.
It's tough, isn't it?
I just, so long as you do.
Yeah.
At some point.
Feels like it's got to be this year, doesn't it?
Yeah. 100% you need to strap up Swerve. I'd probably go Revolution. Like, why not strike when the iron's hot? I don't think Samoa Joe needs like a huge, long title reign. He's one of the guys that can, in 2 seconds on a promo, explain anything, and you completely buy into it and understand and think he's like completely relevant going forwards. So I don't think that matters at all. And now, especially with the Hangman Page storyline that's going on, like doing that, even if he pins Hangman at in that triple threat match and not Samoa Joe, that leaves you loads more things going forwards. But I think, strike while the iron's hot with someone like Swerve and just strap the guy up and just send him to the moon.
I agree. And then yesterday on X, somebody, I think it might have been Suit Williams, posted the idea of just going big with Okada. The worry that everybody's got that it'll be normalised in AEW.
Yeah.
To just come in, beat Joe straight away, like a Rainmaker shock of a different kind.
Yeah.
Where he's immediately like establishes the top star, the man to beat, and you basically dive right into Okada main event epics for all the marbles. Not the worst pitch, like not the worst pitch at all. Totally credible. Like your belt is in safe hands with Kazuchika Okada, and yet at the same time he's suddenly a fascinating figure because there is no main event with him in it, and then all of a sudden he's at the very, very top. It's sort of the most interested I've been in the idea of Okada being there as soon as I read that, and then it is like, well, what do you do with Swerve? What do you do with Hangman? What about their feud? But I'm with you. I think Swerve, for me right now, it would be Swerve at Revolution, and then he keeps it and he works in main event and probably loses to Will Ospreay at Wembley. I think Ospreay winning the title at Wembley feels...
Swerve would be great.
Yeah, like...
Holy cow.
Like, Ospreay winning the title at Wembley after the reaction last year has felt inevitable since the news that he signed.
Yeah.
So, why not have him take it off a star as big as Swerve, especially with him having 6 months then to establish himself as that top guy?
Yeah.
That would have been my route for the belt.
Love it.
What's your opinion on this, on the Revolution main event and the like? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to watch videos just like this one, you can check out one right here. And we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye now.